The other elements, new elements, would you propose to add?
There's lots of elements that are not in there that would obviously need to be in there. In question of the territorial integrity of Ukraine is not there. The non-interference by neighbouring states is not there. The trying to draw equivalence between the legitimate actions of the Kiev authorities and the violent reactions of the separatists, that is not there in the text. So there's a lot of things that would need to go into the text in order for it to become acceptable.
So you're negotiating?
The other day the Russians called
Mr. Ambassador, what do you like the draft? What do you think of the draft?
It's not a question of feeling. In diplomacy, no, the feelings are not very important.
What is the question of? Is it in the
No, really, it's simply that we say that we didn't have instructions by definition, so we gave our first reactions to the proposal, to the Russian proposal. So some of us, we made some remarks that there were things missing, like the reference to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine, for instance, the right of Ukraine to defend its territorial integrity. The second point, which was raised by a lot of members of the Council, was that we need, of course, to have a report by OCHA about the humanitarian situation, because we didn't, we didn't understand that there was a major crisis. So again, we are expecting our own instructions, and I guess there will be a negotiation.
Gerard. Что-то у меня тут много разных бумаг. Возьми. Okay. It's okay. Well, we have started the first workday of the Russian presidency by our traditional bilaterals. Have had 14 different consultations with various colleagues. We have received strong support for our presidency for the month of June. We see how it plays out in practice. And today, it was the initiative of the Russian delegation to convene consultations of the Security Council, which we just concluded. We introduced a draft resolution of the Security Council on the humanitarian situation in Ukraine. And I'd like to make a few remarks in this connection. A large-scale military operation continues in southeastern Ukraine with heavy and indiscriminate shelling of residential areas. Artillery and aviation are being used. Every day, civilians get killed, among them women and children. Many cities and villages are besieged by Ukrainian troops and the so-called National Guard. Thousands of people are locked there. Vital infrastructure is damaged and destroyed. Ukrainian military and paramilitary forces impede peaceful population leaving besieged cities or sending their children to safe places. Buses with children are turned back. In this context, we noted the joint statement of the Ukrainian Red Cross, the Russian Red Cross Society, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, and the International Committee of the Red Cross. They expressed extreme concern about the humanitarian situation resulting from the current crisis in southeastern Ukraine and called upon everyone to allow all Red Cross workers and volunteers to perform their humanitarian duties. So today the Russian delegation tabled a draft resolution regarding the dire humanitarian situation in southeastern Ukraine. The draft is non-politicized and of purely humanitarian nature. It is aimed at alleviating human suffering. We hope that our colleagues in the Council will support the text. First of all, it emphasizes the continuing relevance of the Geneva Statement of April 17 and OEC Roadmap for Ukraine. Both documents call for refraining from violence, intimidation, or provocative actions. Our draft demands the immediate cessation of hostilities, urges parties to commit themselves to a sustainable ceasefire, and calls for the establishment by the parties of humanitarian corridors in order to allow the civilian population to live safely and to ensure humanitarian assistance. It also reconfirms Geneva Conventions and other applicable norms of international humanitarian law and calls upon the parties to facilitate efforts of ICRC and humanitarian agencies. We strongly believe that the Security Council must react to the escalation of the situation in southeastern Ukraine. Well, we circulated the text to our colleagues in the Council a few hours before the meeting, so they were able to give us their initial reaction, and we did get some positive support from some members of the Council, but unfortunately some others, the usual suspects, were sort of inclined, unfortunately, in their comments to condone of the military operation in southeastern Ukraine. We're speaking about the need of getting more information about what was going on, receiving reports, including Mr. Shimonovich's report, which is coming on the 17th of June, showing no urgency about the situation. We believe it's a mistake. We believe that for the situation in Ukraine not to deteriorate further, something needs to be done now in order to stop the violence. Because, I mean, if you look at how the Ukrainian crisis has developed, you'll see that every time there was procrastination, every time there was a delay in stopping and preventing violence, in showing political initiative, the situation was deteriorating. We don't want this to happen now, so we believe that the parties need to stop fighting and need to get back to the Geneva statement of April 17 and to OEC roadmap.
Who would provide the security, or who would protect the corridors?
Well, we believe that under the current situation, I mean, given the layout on the ground, they could simply, if they were serious about stopping violence, they could do that by sort of committing themselves to ceasefire and simply by allowing each other to do the things which are required by international humanitarian law.
I don't know if the usual suspects are going to speak, but at the State Department briefing, the proposal was called hypocritical. They said that Russia is not stopping the rebels from holding OSCE monitors. They mentioned about 4 things. What do you think of that response, and did that actually come before you circulated the draft?
Some statements I do not even want to respond to because they are so odious.
Mr. Ambassador, two questions. First, one of the criticisms of the draft resolution is that it does not contain a reference to the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine. And a second comment from some members of the Council is that, as one said, it's ironic that Russia would sponsor a draft resolution calling for humanitarian corridors in Ukraine, while Russia has opposed similar humanitarian corridors in Syria.
We have not opposed any corridors anywhere. In fact, speaking about Syria, we have been advocating local peace arrangements, which is exactly about this, about stopping fighting in a given area and allowing people to travel for humanitarian purposes, allowing humanitarian assistance to come in. What we have been opposed are suggestions that some kind of a forceful operation need to be done in order for those corridors to be established, for doing anything which is conceivable and possible in Syria for humanitarian purposes. We are all for it. What was your first question again?
About sovereignty and territorial integrity.
This is well, maybe some things we could try to include, but if we get into this political discussion, we'll lose sight of the humanitarian purpose of this resolution and lose sight of the need to stop violence now. Obviously, there are some fundamental political differences among us, but we believe that they should not be allowed to get in the way of doing the right thing in terms of stopping the violence and returning to the internationally recognized documents which exist on this.
On the Syria aid resolution, could you just give us a few comments on your main criticisms of the draft at the moment?
No, I don't want to do any kind of a public discussion now. We are continuing our consultations. And incidentally, we are continuing also to pursue our resolution on local peace arrangements.
Minister Lavrov signalled this morning that Russia would be opposed to anything under Chapter 7. So would you be
we are traditionally opposed to anything on Chapter 7.
Do you think that the humanitarian resolution is more important or more urgent than the political solution?
The which one? I didn't.
Do you think that the humanitarian resolution is more important than the political solution?
You mean in Ukraine? Yeah. In Ukraine, we believe that if this fighting continues, there is going to be even more hostility. There are going to be more casualties, more hostility. So, by implication, it's going to make the political dialogue in Ukraine more difficult. I mean, we do have the political framework there. The Geneva Statement and the roadmap of the OEC, but in order for that to work, violence needs to stop. That's the purpose, we believe, of this resolution.
How concerned is Russia about development of a full-scale or full-blown civil war in Ukraine, given the hostilities that's taking place?
It's a very scary word. And coming from Russia, I would like, you know, I don't even want to use that. But when people fight, this is extremely serious. And there's something which needs to stop. And when I hear some of our colleagues say, and like almost quoting, from where we sit, we believe this, we believe that. Unfortunately, they view it very often as a kind of a theoretical exercise from where they sit. It's very close to Russia, so we don't want to see any deterioration, and we want violence to stop as quickly as possible.
Ambassador, can you give a sense of the scale of the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine? How many people are in need of aid? How many people are wanting to get out? And the UN has no humanitarian operation there, so where are you getting that information?
We get that information from, please watch our television. Please, I mean, there are dozens of journalists who are there. These days you have the internet, and you get a lot of information from those sources. And the Red Cross, all the Red Crosses I've referred to, they are there, so they know what kind of a situation it is. And in terms of how many people, Donetsk and Lugansk, those two regions, they have the population of 7 million people. So if the fighting is continuing to spread, then potentially you will have many thousands of people in need of some humanitarian attention. And we want to arrest the cycle of violence as quickly as possible.
I have a question on Syria.
No, not on. Let's do Ukraine again.
Thank you, Ambassador. What was the immediate reaction of the other Council members to the draft resolution, and when do you plan to put it on the vote?
Well, immediate reaction, as I said, towards the end of our consultations, I hope that when they receive their instructions from their capitals, they are going to be more pragmatic and focused on the results. So, as I said, there were some positive reactions from some members of the Council. However, others were, I think, asking so many questions that if we were try to answer them, then we'll be talking about things for weeks. So we have not yet decided what our next move is going to be in terms of working on this resolution.
So do you believe that the UN should send a mission to Ukraine, to this part of Ukraine,
this
or
is not. This is not. This is not what we are discussing. We need to go back to political solutions. I think, in fact, the Secretary General made a good statement today when he basically said, well, there is the need, you say, addressing himself to President-elect of Ukraine, that you need to reestablish sovereignty, but it must be done through peaceful means. This is what the Security Council, this is what the United Nations are about. How come we talk all the time, as you know, theoretically about preventive diplomacy, about the need to stop conflict, and then some colleagues sit in the Council and sort of shake their head and say, well, maybe, you know, they are doing the right thing, this military thing, they have the right to do that, looking for various legal frames for this kind of an attitude. We believe it's wrong. It's our duty to try to stop conflict as quickly as possible, to try to stop violence as quickly as possible.
Has there been any response to Russia's request for an investigation of the killings in Odessa, either by OPCW or by the Secretariat?
There has been a response, and I don't want to go into details, but we have been told they're working on it. So we'll see what kind of result the United Nations is going to produce. Not in a formal and full-fledged form of investigation, which we would prefer to see. But they assured us that they are not losing sight of this, and we'll see what they come up with eventually.
Will the OPCW, will it be involved in this investigation?
We hope so. We have some contacts with them as well. Thank you very much.
United Nations, please.
But if you don't talk to the Russians, who are directly involved or indirectly involved, and if this situation carries on, the humanitarian cost will be very huge. Why don't we take it one step at a time?
Primarily, we are ready to the dialogue, but with our own people, because the groupings in the eastern part of Ukraine who are threatening people, they are led by Russians, mostly by Russians. So they are denying that they are inside Ukraine, but how they can explain that dozens of coffins are being sent from Ukraine to Russian Federation? Even taking this said fact. So what we need to leave us in peace, to speak to our own people, to find our own solution.
Yeah. Is it true that Ukraine has requested some military aid from the United States?
No, I don't know that. We have a right to ask for everybody to help us, but we are doing ourselves.